Come on in, have a seat. It's a family affair.
All right, and sir in the back with the lovely shades and the beautiful locks. Yes, you said you had a loud voice. Would you like to give us a question before we get the audience mic out there?
Yeah, sure. What would you say your favorite role was to play?
Your favorite role?
You know, I love all my characters, but I'll have to say Jet is my favorite because Cowboy Bebop has really changed my life. You know, the fan response to Bebop has been so fantastic over the years that it's created situations that I absorb a lot of love from you guys, and it's been pretty cool. And my wife, I don't know if you've seen this shirt. You've seen this shirt. My wife found these shirts online, and so she insisted that I wear them at conventions, and I thought that was a very good idea. And then she said, you know what, you should wear them on the plane when you fly to conventions. And I started doing that, and I was amazed at how many TSA agents are fans of Cowboy Bebop. It's amazing. And I guess a few weeks ago, I was going to a convention in New Jersey, and I was flying. I live in LA, so I was flying from LA, and I had the shirt on, and one of the TSA agents says, "Nice T-shirt. I like the T-shirt." He said, "Are you a fan of Cowboy Bebop?" And you know, I said, "Yeah, I'm a fan, and maybe a little more." And so I told him, and he goes, "Oh, wow!" And he just goes, "Oh, it's great." I'm gonna have to confiscate this because you have too much. I had this nasal spray, and it was too much liquid, and so he confiscated it. It was really funny because he was very official. Then he became a child because you know I'm the voice of his childhood, right? And then he became official again when he snatched my property. But yeah, Jet is a phenomenal character. You know, the whole Cowboy Bebop universe is pretty fabulous. You know, the writing is terrific, the stories are terrific, and the music is awesome. So yeah, I have to say that's a long way around to answer your question. The answer is Jet.
And then I'm going to ask you really quick to share something that you shared on the way here.
Uh-oh.
When someone called you out once, walking around in public, and what his response to you was.
Yeah, I was walking on Hollywood Boulevard with my daughter, and this guy came up to me and he says, he recognized me, but he didn't know what he recognized me from, right? So he says, you're somebody, I said, I'm Beau Billingslea. He said, no, that's not it. And I said, wait a minute, I know who I am. I am me. He said, whatever. And he left. He walked on and he's like, okay, that was a very interesting exchange with another human. He corrected me on my name. No, that's not your name. So, anyway.
Thank you, Beau. Do we have another question? We have a live mic for you now. If you'd like to step up and ask a question,
unless
that
you have a
would be
big voice.
on the video.
I did theater. I've got a lot of.
Oh, white guy. Yes.
So I didn't ask yesterday the Bebop thing, but as Jet, what would you have changed about your ship? Like, had you been able to like modify it from what was in the show, what would you have done different from your ship versus like what you had?
Wow, that's quite a question. I've never had that question in many, many years. What would I change? I'd get rid of Spike and Faye. No, I would not. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Bebop. Maybe I would change nothing. I don't know. I would get an up-to-date refrigerator. If you know what I mean, you know, toys in the attic.
I remember that.
That was a fun episode. You might have heard that on 1, 2, 3. There were 3 occasions that the whole gang we were together, and we did a live reading of Toys in the Attic. And we were in DC, we were in Birmingham, Alabama, and we did one in LA to raise funds for when Japan had the tsunami, the earthquake and the tsunami. But it's interesting that Cowboy Bebop has become like mainstream in the culture, so that, now I was telling you about my wife said, you know, wear the shirt at the conventions, and then she said, wear the shirt when you're flying, and then she told me, she said, like, wear the shirt around town. And I did that, and it was amazing. You know, I'm at the grocery store, I went to Michael's to have some certificates framed, and they were fans of Bebop, and so when I wear this shirt around LA, you know, I have all these warm moments with bands. You know, we have a nice conversation. They express to me what Cowboy Bebop meant to them as a child. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I just love this shirt. It brings more love.
What would you change about this shirt?
What would I change about this shirt? I lost the
Yes.
question. I love the sound of my voice so much I just ramble on, you know.
But a new fridge.
Yeah, new phrase. That's about all I can do. Interesting question. I've never had that question.
Do we have another question? Yes.
During the time of Cowboy Bebop dubbing, along with the rest of the cast, what was your favorite? What is your favorite moment during the time of dubbing?
So what is his favorite moment?
When we were dubbing. Okay. All right. Well, you might have heard this story. You know, in Mushroom Samba, you know, first of all, I never thought I'd do an anime character that was stoned. You know, I said, okay, I like this job. It's pretty nice. You know, when Jeff was talking to his bonsai trees, and he, you know, he was stoned from eating the mushrooms, and he's talking to the bonsai trees, and then he blurts out, "Who am I anyway?" And I love when Spike was walking to heaven. You know, when he was on that stairway that he was going no place and just walking and walking and not going up. And there's another moment also in Mushroom Samba where Spike asked me what we're having to eat. And you know, when you're dubbing anime, you don't have a lot of room to improv and do different things because there are only so many flaps, and you have to match the flaps. So his question was, you know, Jet, what are we having to eat? And so I responded by saying, shiitake mushrooms on us. And so when I said that, Mary Elizabeth said, boy, that's great, that's good, but I don't know if we can get that through. She said, so say one regular. So I did another take on the loop. It says shiitake mushrooms on ice. But if you remember, it made it. so we have one little slightly off-color moment in the show. That was enjoyable. And I also enjoyed when Jet goes back to Ganymede. You know, he puts his past to rest. And that was it was nice writing again. It was emotional, it was realistic. When he met up with his ex-girlfriend, and then finally he tosses the watch in the water and puts everything to rest. So that was also a special moment from the show. You know, we had a lot of. I have to tell you, there was one time. You know, we all go into the booth alone. Right? We take our turns. We don't work together actually. So we pass in the hallway or something. Then we would chat in the waiting room. So what we would do is we would leave notes to each other in the script because we were using paper back in those days. And there was one day Stephen already worked before I worked, and so he wrote a note in the script for me. He said, hey, Beau, Jet sucks. So I said, oh, it's on now. So I went further into the script for one of the loops he was going to do in the future, in the next session. And I said, hey, Steve, Spike sucks. And the bebop is my shit. So I got the last laugh on that one. But yeah, and there was another time I remember, when Steve was doing his martial arts. When we're in the booth, you have to stay on mic. So if you're doing a lot of physical stuff, you have to stay on mic. So it's like he's doing all of this. You've seen the bobbleheads, So I told Steve I stayed to watch him work. And when he came out, I said, Steve, you're a bobble body. His body was doing all of this movement, and his head was just right there on the mic. He was just doing all this stuff, and his head is just right there. That was a fun moment, and that was fairly early on in the recordings before we got to know each other as well as we do now. But yeah, the whole experience was very extraordinary. And of course, we didn't know it was going to become as iconic as it has become. It was just a nice, fun gig, and with a wonderful producer, Kevin Seymour, and a wonderful family that we've become. We have an open-ended text conversation. It starts and stops all the time. I was just with Steve and Melissa in Seattle, or just outside of Seattle, I guess about a month or so ago. So it's nice when some of us can get together. Because of our scheduling, it's hard to get all four of us or five of us together at the same time. But, yeah, that's some nice moments in recording the show.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes.
All right.
So I know you as a Barrett from FM Children, of course, but what did you think about John Eric Bentley, who played Barrett in the remake?
John's a friend of mine, and they replaced the whole cast, which was very disappointing. But that's showbiz, right? Now his character. As a voice actor, we're directed and we're basically told what they want the character to be. Maybe sometimes we'll give them a couple choices of how the character vocalizes. So John is very talented, and he voices Barrett differently from the way I voice Barrett. And I think he does a great job. I think perhaps I might have gone a different way with it, but it's his gig, and he'll do it the way, or he has done it the way they wanted it. So that's, I guess, as much as I should say about that. Yeah. No, I just had a yep in there. I just really
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your opinion on the live action of Cowboy Bebop? Just your interpretation.
That's a hot topic this weekend.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
be curious to know.
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't watch it all the way through. I watched some of it, and I was entertained. And I thought it was an entertaining piece of work. I would have done things differently. I think that the characters of Vicious and Julia might have been different. And I think, it seems like Spike was older than Jet in that project. I was disappointed that they didn't incorporate the voice cast in the project in some way. I think they could have done it. They could have used some imagination and done that. But they chose not to, so that's fine. But I think that if they had incorporated us into the project, it might still be filming now. If they had us in some little vignette at the end of each episode, you know, that they have the voice cast who are arguing about something or playing cards or drinking and laughing about the new jet and the new Spike and the new Big A. But yeah, I think they missed an opportunity when they didn't incorporate us into the project.
They sort of thought about it, and you got to see the thought of it. If you want to talk about the Bebop tour.
Okay. There was a little standalone vignette, about 2 or 3 minutes, where Mustafa Shakir, who played Jet, gave a tour of the Bebop. I don't know if anybody saw that, but he gave a tour of the Bebop, and well, let me backtrack. They did contact us and ask us to submit them photographs because they had the idea that they would put us on the board on the Bebop as if we were bounties that they were hunting. And so we did that, and they wanted us to put them almost like mug shots. So we sent in the mug shots. They made it clear they weren't going to pay us any money for that, but you know, we did it anyways. Life is not always about money. And so that was going to be the extent of our involvement in the show. I never saw a board like that, but in this standalone vignette that I'm telling you about, that Mustafa Shakir walked around and narrated, there was a board and with a photo of Steve Bloom, his headshot, and there was my headshot slightly over and below his, but my headshot was upside down. And so I was very offended. I said, wait, what the hell is this? You know, why am I? And what about the ladies? They didn't have the photos of the ladies. So, I mean, I can't get into their minds as to figure out why they did what they did. I assume they're all smart people, but I think, you know, smart people can make unfortunate decisions, and I think that's what happened with Cowboy Bebop. I was happy that they finally did it, because there had been talk for years about that. Keanu Reeves had actually said that he would be interested in playing Jet, but that never came about. So, because, you know, if we can expand the Cowboy Bebop universe, you know, that's a win-win for everybody, right? So I was thinking that they did a good job and they did expand the universe, because some people maybe would watch it who had not seen the anime and say, well, let me check out the anime. I don't know, it just unfortunately went the way it went, and so they're no longer filming it anymore. So that's my take on that. Yeah.
We do know Beau for Cowboy Bebop, but he's also an actor in a ton of projects. I know that that's a huge one for all of us, but he also did live action back in the day. So I do want to open it up to, like, if you guys have questions about any of his work, does anybody have any other questions out there?
Did anybody see the movie The Blob? No?
We have one guest up here.
Oh.
There's a Jedi moment.
No. The Blob was a horror movie that wasn't so horrible. It was, we shot it in, I think, 87, 88, around that time.
I remember. That was during my time.
Oh, you remember? That was your
That was,
okay.
well, it was a remake. The original one had Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen
He was the original. And the new one was either Matt Damon.
Kevin Dillon.
Kevin Dillon. That was, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting. We shot it in Abbeville, Louisiana, and down there in Cajun country. And it stayed in the theaters about 2 weeks, and then they pulled it. Because nobody was watching it, because it was soft core. You know, we had to compete with Friday the 13th with all the blood and gore, and our show didn't have a lot of blood and gore. And but it has become kind of a cult classic. It's been on HBO and Showtime and like on and off forever. And so consequently we have a pretty big fan base. I did an on-camera show on Nickelodeon in 2007, 2008. I don't know if you remember that, that was a while ago. Where it's called Just Jordan, and I played a grandfather who ran a diner and lived upstairs over the diner, and my newly divorced daughter came to live with me with her two children, my grandkids. And it was a sitcom, so we had a lot of fun, but the best part about it was that my granddaughter did a lot of extra work on the show, so she was around. You know, anytime you can work with your family, there's nothing better. And the last show of the first season, the writers wrote a food fight that took place in the diner. And it just so happened that my granddaughter was working that day, and because she was a minor, my daughter was there also, and one of the adults didn't show up, so they asked my daughter if she'd be in the show. And so we had this scene where they were smushing cake in my face, pouring Kool-Aid on my head, and at one point my granddaughter looked at my daughter and said, "Mommy, this is so much fun!" And then she grabs a handful of cake and smushes it in my face. So I guess there's nothing better than smushing cake in the face of your grandfather on television.
With permission.
With permission, right. It's all good, all good. And we had some stills that we took because, you know, it was a big deal. And so I had food all over my, you know, we all had food all over us. And, it was a lot of fun, but that's a very special moment to be able to do something like that with your granddaughter and your daughter too. But my granddaughter was just, she was so tickled. I think she was 10 at the time, 9 or 10, to be able to do that to her grandfather.
Were any of you at his other Q&As? You guys were? Okay, were you at his Q&As day before yesterday, by chance? All right, wonderful. Then I'm going to step into some stories I really enjoy, if that's okay, that we can share with this audience.
Okay.
Can you tell them what it was like to work with Ray Charles?
Oh, Ray Charles. Oh, you guys know who Ray Charles was? He was, you know, a fabulous singer, and he was blind. And so I played on the show, Who's the Boss with Tony Danza, I played his driver and his man Friday that I would take him wherever he was going. And so I spent a lot of time, it was a sitcom, so we spent a week together. We rehearsed all week and then we recorded on Friday night. So I actually had some time to spend with him, to joke with him. I mean, he had such a great sense of humor, and he was such a bright light, a very special man, obviously. And I mean, the fact that he was blind with no self-pity at all, you know, he was just living his life. It was very, very, very amazing. And the joke was, I bring him to the house and I have this conversation and I ask them, they invite me in, and I say, well, do you have, of course, back that time, I think we would think, do you have cassette tapes? You do? That must be funny. You know, you have cassette tapes, you have a hot tub. And she said, I asked all the stories, she said, no. I said, okay, well, I'll stay in the limo, because we got that in, you know, all that stuff in the limo. But I asked the guy, Dave, who I was portraying in the show, who did that job in real life with Ray, I said, Ray is so, I mean, he has such a great sense of humor, he's so fun to be around, but he drinks coffee all day. And he said, that's not just coffee. And he says he likes a little touch of gin in that coffee. I said, oh, okay, I see why he's in a good mood all the time now. Yeah, that was very special. And just to be close to him when he was performing, because he did some jamming, you know, beyond just being in the show. And it was very special to be just near an extraordinary musician while he's singing and playing the piano. So that was a very special experience.
And I'm sure you have a lot of fun stories. You have been in entertainment for many, many years. Is there any other stories that you just really like to share?
Well, let me tell you, one of the first shows I did when I went to Hollywood was a show called Barnaby Jones. And Barnaby Jones was played by Buddy Ebsen, and he was on this show, hillbillies. Yeah, it was Beverly Hills hillbillies that they discovered oil and then they moved to Beverly Hills. Anyway, he was playing a detective in this series, and it was my first show in Hollywood. That was in '76, and you know, I was always all nervous. I was over in the corner studying my lines. The director was Leo Penn, Sean Penn's father. And so he says, and he was one of these guys, you'd never know he was this big time director, right? He'd walk around with his baseball hat on, crooked, and shorts. And so he said, hey kid, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going over my lines. Oh, stop it, you'll be great. Just stop it, stop it. So anyway, we were rehearsing. I had 2 scenes, which was nice. 2 nice scenes with Buddy Epson and another guy who played his nephew. And so Leo decided to give me an acting lesson in a kind of a weird way. So he asked Buddy Epson, he said, you know, when do you look at Beau during this scene? And he goes, where your focus is as an actor is very important. So Buddy went through the whole scene and explaining where he was looking while the dialogue was going on. He said, well, I'm looking at Beau, and halfway through his line, I look at so-and-so, and then I look back at Beau, and then I look back at him, and then I'm looking down, I'm looking up, and then I go up. And that was such an eye-opener for me, because I literally had never studied acting. You know, is acting, how hard can it be? You know, I learned my lesson about that, but when Buddy finished, Leo looked at me and gave me a wink like that, and I was just in awe because the detail that he expressed that was going through his mind, not only that he was doing those things, but he remembered that he was doing those things, that he could express at any point in the scene what he was doing and where he was looking, where his focus was. So that was a real eye-opener for me. I said, okay, I got a lot of work to do. And I learned to be very economical with the use of props. You know, if you have a pencil or a pen, because it's easy to get really wrapped up in, you know, doing something else while you're talking, which is really cool and it's interesting to watch. But when you're doing on-camera work, generally speaking, unless it's a sitcom or a soap, they shoot the master, which they go through the whole scene, the master basically being from a distance, then shoot the whole scene, and then they'll move in, so we're moving in for close-ups, so everybody will have their close-ups. But if you, whatever props you use, you have to remember when you use them and what you did and when you did it. Like Buddy Epson was saying, so that if you have wearing glasses and you take them off and you say a few lines, you put them back in, you have to remember when you did that. You know, if you go in your pocket and you get a pen, take it out, you have to, you have to remember whenever you did any movement, any motion, you have to remember when you did it and exactly what you did. You know, if you ran your fingers through your hair with one hand, you have to remember which hand you use so that you don't use it. You use the right hand on doing the master and the left hand doing the close-up. So, because of that, I learned to be very economical with my use of props and to make my job a little easier. And then, because as an actor, especially an on-camera actor, you have to have levels of concentration. You can't get just lost in your character. Like maybe in a stage play you can because you rehearse for a month and then, you have time, you have time. But with film work, you have to make sure you hit your mark and you have to have a level of concentration which is different from just doing your character, just performing your character. Acting is reacting. And so I learned on the job, but if you've ever been in a situation where you were insecure, I'm sure you all have been, and you're nervous as hell. And when you're doing a shoot like this, you have 50, 100 people, props and engineering, all of these people, and it comes down to at that moment, they said, we've got speed, you know, background and action. And at that point, it's just like, it's you. You know, it's just you. And so, because, you know, your nerve level is directly related to your preparation. If you feel very prepared, your nerve level is going to be very low, and you're just going to have some fun. If you don't feel like you're prepared, or if you feel like you're insecure, then you got all these butterflies in your stomach, and you got to make sure your hand's not shaking and you're doing stuff. So, you know, that's what I went through, because I didn't study before I started my acting career.
And then the third time they say back to one, you're just apologizing to everyone in the background, like, I'm so sorry, you have to go back over there.
Yeah, I thought we were finished, but Beau didn't get it right, so we have to do it over again. You know? Yeah, it's a weird business, but it's still, the human condition doesn't change. You know, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. You know, as actors, we try to inhabit the soul of the character. I remember I did a role, it was a very emotional role for me. I played an enslaved person in a Civil War miniseries in the 80s called North and South. And as I said, I portrayed an enslaved person, and it was a very special gig for me because we started off in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's where I was born. And my parents made plans to come down. They had never seen me on the set. And so, you know, it was a very special experience. So my approach to the role was to meditate and try to inhabit the soul and spirit of an enslaved person being owned by somebody, and, you know, all that goes along with slavery, you know. And despite what that governor of Florida says, you know, there's no upside to slavery, you know, being whipped and having somebody, just imagine somebody having the power of life and death over you, and that's it. And, you know, your woman, your wife, your girlfriend is subject to be treated in a very bad way by people, and you can do nothing about it. Your wife has a child, and they take the child and sell the child, so you don't see your child ever again. You know, all of these horrible, you know, aside from the whippings and all of that. So I meditated to try to inhabit the spirit of his name was Ezra. My character's name was Ezra. And to inhabit Ezra, so I imagine what his thoughts would be when he goes to bed at night, and his thoughts when he wakes up in the morning. You know, we as free people, you know, you have your dreams, you decide how you're going to pursue your dreams, but an enslaved person, that's not that. You know, so you try to live for the moment, how to enjoy whatever you can enjoy. So that experience was profound for me. It was just really profound for all the reasons I expressed. You know, and I remember my mom and dad came on the set, and they were treated like a king and queen. You know, they were saying, "Okay, can we get you something to eat, something to drink?" My mom would say, "Oh." My father said, "Let him get you something to drink. Come on." And I remember we were doing a little sightseeing, going to places, Roper Hospital, where I was born, and Beaufort Street, where we lived. And my mom looked at my dad and said, "I never thought I'd come to Charleston like this." You know, because when they left Charleston, it was like, we got to get out of town. You know, Charleston wasn't a fun place, you know, back in the day for us. And so yeah, that was a very profound experience for me that I will never forget. And I had such mixed emotions. It was a gig, it was a great gig, I was making great money. And remember Elizabeth Taylor, she was a great actress from way back in the day. She did one scene, she got $750 for it, you know. And but I will tell you about my per diem. I didn't have the most powerful agent in the world, and when you get your per diem, at least you used to, you get your per diem with a sheet where everybody signed in that they got the per diem. So everybody was getting $100 a day per diem, and until you got down to Beau, and Beau was getting 50. No, actually, it was 45. That was the minimum. That was 45, and the sad thing about it was, it was like on this public sheet, so everybody could see what everybody was getting, you know. And I was a little guy in the pub, and that's when the casting director told me, she said, you know, you need to get another agent because, you know, he doesn't negotiate for you well, and blah 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 blah. Which I did actually. I took her advice. But you know, the actor's life is can be very exciting and fulfilling. But there are also times when it's like, oh, another rejection. Oh, another rejection. I remember I shot a commercial. I mean, I did an audition for a commercial like on Thursday, and it was a callback. And I'm thinking, I got a shot at this. I got a shot at this. And there was this guy who I played tennis with, maybe 2 or 3 times a week if we weren't working in the morning. And he was an African American. And I mentioned this. You know, this commercial. He said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I had this callback. I feel really good about it. You know, he said, blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, we shot that. I said, what? he said, Ron, you shot that commercial? He said, yeah. So that's the other side of the glamour, you know, of Hollywood. So anyway, I'm going on and on. We have a question. Who has it asked? Oh.
So there's obviously differences in on-screen versus voice acting, because you don't have all of the body language to show your character, it's already done for you. So how do you go about like creating that character with, it's part of it's already created for you, but you still want to put your mark on it, versus being able to create your body language and all of those other subtle cues and things to create the character?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Because we are limited with the voice work. It's basically with your inflections. You know, you try to expand your repertoire of you know, with your voice, whether it's you know, inflections, whether it's accents. You try to expand your choices so that you can give the character subtlety and nuance, because only with your voice, because that's all you have, and that comes back to voice actors annoying everybody in their family because we're always
making all these little sounds that you don't pick up that on a TV show really brings the character more to life. I like to call them links in the voice.
Okay.
Sometimes it's simply clearing your throat, or the way you say yes to someone, or maybe there's a grunt before or after you say something. It's these little things that will add to and really develop the character, because it's small things that you don't notice in real life are sounds people make, which I do think Beau does a really good job of, because he has reactions, and you don't need flaps sometimes to make very good lines. And then they're really good at filling that space, I think.
Yeah, we call it bringing it off the page, you know, so that sometimes you'll do a loop, and you know, I guess we all have a loop from hell. We call it a loop from hell. That it's just like you can't get by it. You know, you're messing up some way or somehow. It's not appropriate. You just keep going over and over, and you're trying to get it. But yeah, you try to expand your choices. You know, expand your library, so to speak, your repertoire, into, as Erica said, to make it real. People grunt or sniff or whatever it is, and you try something to make it real, so that the audience really feels like they're getting a slice of life.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure you've seen projects or heard projects that yours didn't really hit you right, because it just, for some reason, it wasn't grounded in reality.
The biggest thing to me, I think, is because if you think about it as a live actor, when you smile, that doesn't make a sound. But if you watch an animation and a character smiles and no sound happens, it is so off-putting. So you have to learn to make a sound when you smile. And sometimes, if you do voice acting enough, you'll start doing that in real life, and someone will say something you like, and you'll go, and they're like, are you all right? Like, but it's really important for animation, because if that's just empty space, it's actually very jarring for us, especially here. And you'll notice for different types of animation as well. Like in Japan, silent space isn't as off-putting as it is to us. We fill empty voids of space. Like we do not have silence in our films as much as they tend to be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, it's like radio. You know, silence in radio is not a good thing. Right? You know, so I did a radio show for a short period of time. It was actually part of the class, and I was like a DJ. And you know, you bring your own music in. That's when we had vinyls. I was using vinyls, and if you have to develop the ability to just keep talking while you're doing stuff, and you're queuing up the next song or whatever you're doing. You just got to keep talking because silence on radio doesn't work for anybody, right? You had one.
Well, we need to take off, but I just wanted to say thank you for making at least my childhood that much cooler. You're awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. You know, when I hear that, it makes me feel so good. And hopefully, you had a good childhood. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, it warms my heart when I hear someone say that because I know myself. You know, when I was a child, I watched, Howdy Doody. And when I first started, when I was a kid. When I first started being a human, I was a radio baby. We didn't even have a TV. You know, that gives you an idea of how old I am. But we listened to the radio. The radio was great because it triggered your imagination. Because you created a vision in your mind's eye of what you listened to. And so it was terrific, you know, kind of like reading a book. You know, you're creating it. And then Howdy Doody came, and then the Mickey Mouse Club, and having an opportunity to meet some of those people. I met William Conrad, who was a great voice. I listened to him on the radio, and then I actually got to work with him. And it was magical for me, you know. And I said to him, kind of what you said to me, you know, you're a voice of my childhood, and it was such an honor to meet him. So I really appreciate your comments. Yeah. So, inside you have to be. No, you're not. Have a great day, guys.
Beau has spoken.
I will find you.
Alright, if you wanted to go back and do, they did another update on Cowboy Bebop, what would you like to do with Jet or any of the plot or the series?
Oh, this is again what happens after death.
Yeah, well, you know what? I would like to have some like flashbacks, deep flashbacks about his prior life as a law enforcement officer, and then maybe some an episode about him being a Chippendale dancer. I don't know where that came from. That just came out. I apologize for that. That's kind of. I think the.
I'll take questions after this.
He's fine.
Oh my. Well, it's okay. We'll circle back to a different type of sass. What do you think about you and Faye?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you know what? This woman here, that question was asked, what, last night or something?
Yesterday evening.
I'm sure you all know that Faye was cryogenically preserved, so Faye is like 73 years old. And so my answer was that Jet kind of likes older women. So he and Faye just go off into the sunset.
Right into the sunset.
Yeah.
You just bebop all night.
You're right. And then one day, her cryogenics disappeared, and yikes! Oh my God!
Her
stopped eating while she was frozen. So he was like assisting her and people are confused.
Oh my goodness. Anybody else have another question? Yes.
So, if Barrett was like a real person or something, what would you do with him if you met him in person? What would you do with him?
Well, I'd make him my bodyguard. Any man whose arm is a gun, you know, I want him on my side. I would like to hear the backstory of Barrett too. You know what's the deal? Where he came from? Where he's going? All of that. Yeah.
So between voice acting and live acting, which do you prefer? You don't have to have a favorite if they're the same to you. But what's your favorite thing about each of them?
Well, in line with your question, it's nice not to have to memorize a bunch of dialogue, right? When I first started, I would memorize it like that. Now it's doesn't come to me as quickly, and especially since in 2006 I had colon cancer with the joys of chemotherapy, and I was doing the show I was telling you about, Just Jordan. We filmed it in 2006, 2007, and it was on the air in 2007, 2008. And my schedule was I would have chemotherapy on Monday for like 4 or 5 hours, and then I'd have a pack, a drip at a port, and a drip, it looked like a cassette tape. They put it in the small of my back, plug me in, and I'd have a drip for 48 hours. Then I'd go to the clinic, they give me, I was doing a series, so they give me a driver in a car to go to the clinic to have the drip taken out, and then disconnected, and then I would, go back to work. I think that the beauty of on camera is, like you said, you have your whole instrument to work with. And with your voice, with the voice work, you have just your voice. Although with original animation, they do the animation after you do your dialogue, so that you have some input that way with your body. And we're all in the room together, so we can look at each other and make eye contact, as opposed to pretending all of that in the booth. And I remember when I was dealing with the colon cancer, I actually booked a voiceover gig. I think it was a commercial, and I wasn't able to do it, and so they used my audition. They used my audition, which was really cool. The casting director and the producers, they appreciated what I did, and so they actually used my audition. But there's a certain ease with voiceover that doesn't exist. You can, especially as a guest artist, when you go on to a show, like a TV show, everybody knows each other, and and you're the new guy on the block. And most of the shows are pretty welcoming, but some of them weren't so welcoming. And then you have all of these people that, when it comes down to you, it can be kind of intimidating. As I said, once again, your level of nerves depends upon your level of preparation. And of course, I always made sure I was over-prepared. It's kind of back when I was practicing law, that, if you're representing, I practiced criminal law, and so if you're representing somebody, and I had like 4 murder cases, there's a lot riding on it, that's to say the least. So I was always one of those people that I would over-prepare. And so I took that work ethic into show business. But once again, you can't work on something that you don't know that's there. Like I didn't know all of this about the film acting that I learned on the job. To say, well, okay, I gotta remember every little thing, where I looked, when I looked there, and all of that. So, oh my God, I have to have all these levels of concentration to be an actor, or an on-camera actor. So from that standpoint, voice acting is easy.
Yeah, you're like, I just gotta keep my head in place. I can have bad hair days. Fine.
Yes,
I'm not missing any of that.
And nowadays, you know, we have a home studio, so you know, you can be in your PJs, and you know.
Do you record from home a lot?
Yeah, well, not a lot. Now we're back in the studios now,
Oh.
right? Pretty much. But we do have to memorize it in terms of like when we're matching a flap, because if you're looking down, it's pretty hard to match a flap when you're looking down. So consequently, what we have to do is grab a chunk of the dialogue in our mind and go up and chase to see. So from that standpoint, there is memorization with voiceover. I had a couple of series on History Channel that I narrated, but I didn't have to match anything, so it was fine. They had video for me, and so I could just, as long as I did it within the time frame that they needed. If it was 7 seconds, 15 seconds, I had to fit it within that time window. But there is that bit of memorization that we have to do when we're doing voiceover work.
Well, and once upon a time, when you did it on tapes, it was a lot harder to retake or to move it. Now you got an engineer, you can say, can you nudge that to the left, nudge it to the right, and they can line it up for you.
You're right.
But back when Beau started, they did it all on tape.
Yeah.
So it was in that moment, so it needed to be right. So
Right.
now they like to hire him because, well, they have to do a lot less editing.
Yeah, they have Pro Tools now. You can slide it, you compress it, or whatever. When I first started, I was dubbing live foreign action film. So there'd be a German film with an African actor, and so I would dub the film. And we had no beeps. You know, now we work with beeps. The engineer cues it up so that there would be 3 beeps. And then where the 4th beep would come is when the voice actor speaks. So it would be beep, 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 speak. And when I started, we didn't have that. We just had time codes. And they didn't have the ability to, you know, to cut in and do all of this stuff. So we had to pretty much get it letter perfect. You know, when in our take, that old term of a phrase, fix it in post. There wasn't so much of that, fixing it in post.
Engineer's biggest nemesis.
Right.
Did you just see me?
So what we would do is they would play the scene, and once again, you know, we'd have to basically memorize the dialogue, even though we had it there, because you can't be looking down if you're trying to match a man's flaps. So that was pretty nerve-wracking too, because, you know, there was no school for that. There was no going to class to learn how to do that. It was just like, I had a reputation for on camera, and this producer knew my voice, Doug Stone, he knew my voice, so he asked me to do these things, and so it was pretty much learning as on the job, you know, OJT, on the job training, and once again, you know, the nerve factor was really about a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10, because, you know, I like the very first time I did it, I'd never done it before. I'd never been in the room or watch anybody do it, and so we were just doing it. And it's like, I gotta memorize this stuff. I gotta memorize this to chase this scene to follow my character. And but it, you know, it worked out. But it was that I was so insecure because I really didn't know what I was doing, and people were paying me to do something I didn't know what I felt like a fraud. You know, I see I'm going to be exposed any minute now that I don't know what I'm doing. But that's the nature of the beast. If you play it safe in your life all the time, you know, you might not go as far as if you take some chances and you know, I've embarrassed myself more than once, but I'm not going to tell you about that because that's none of your damn business.
On that note, we're going to take one more question because we just have like a couple of minutes left. So. You got a question?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I apologize.
A question or
Well, I was
comment?
gonna say, you know, I remember watching other voice actors, you know, how they did all the mouth flaps and everything. And I also remember George Lucas in the Star Wars. He always tells his actors, faster, more intense. You got to speed up your lines. This is a fast pace.
It's
So it's
funny
like,
because-
it's similar to anime because before then, you know, the technology has changed, but in the old days, you didn't know how fast or slow the Japanese characters' mouths were moving. But now technology, they use computers to match the voice with their mouths.
So the flaps are actually to pace instead of just having automatic flaps and just having the flap run until the line is ending. It actually goes with the words now.
Yeah.
For a lot of animation, unless it's there's some newer animation that still is on the hold stuff just because of production costs and everything like that. But no, that's a great point. But like I said, the engineers can move stuff around a lot easier than back in the day.
Years ago with acting, especially on-camera acting, it was louder, faster, you know. But then Marlon Brando came into the picture, and it was long pauses.
Like, now you have new people that come in nervous and all their lines are so fast.
So fast.
And you're like, all right, I know technology exists and your brain is going at Twitter speed, but slow down.
Right, yeah. It's, I remember, I did this movie, American President with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. And Warren Beatty, who was married to Annette Bening, so he could come on the set periodically. But I remember, I think the second or third time he came on, I said, Warren, how you doing? So he goes, how am I doing? Well, and I just said, you know, I don't really care. It was just a greeting. But it was like a flashback of, you know, Marlon Brando. I mean, see, the stars could do that. You know, if they have a line, they could do all of this business before the line, this business in the middle, pauses, and so where the line would take maybe 10 seconds, they would, you know, indulge themselves with 30, because that's the way Brando worked, and then people started mimicking Brando. They say, taking your time, taking your time.
And now Beau is indulging.
Mm-hmm.
And that's time.
Oh.
I am so sorry.
Oh,
They
okay.
want us to clear out so we can clean the room.
Oh.
But I can let you guys.
All right, well.
Hearing the end of your story.
Well, it doesn't matter. I just, I got so much to talk about. I'll put you to sleep in a second. You know?
He's so full.
You stretching, or did you want to say something?
I'm stretching.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for coming, everybody, and I just love you all, and I appreciate you so much. You're all in my heart.
Have a wonderful convention, everyone.
See you in
If
Space
you have to come
Cowboy.
by, come by
See
the
you,
table, we
Space
can chat. You know, you don't have to buy anything. Just come by the table, we can chat.